The DRL Racing Sim is a neat little quad sim that's in beta right now, and while it's coming together really nicely, some of the menus are a bit slow to navigate through when you're using the controller, when you're trying to grind out fast laps and having to restart a lot. And new UI and menus are coming, but for right now, the easiest way to quickly get through the menus is to just assign simple key macros to switches on your radio. The way that I do this is I use two simple tools to do the automation and configure the radio. The first you'll want to grab is Auto Hotkey, which is a macro writing little script language. You do key presses and mouse clicks. And then you can grab my script from my GitHub page, which has three main functions. The first one is a simple in mid-race reset that does the built-in Alt-R reset function, but then also has a bit of a pause and then automatically hits space to kill the cinematic camera. An end-of-race reset for when you've actually completed a lap and have a time that'll click through the next and re-race buttons for you automatically. And then probably the biggest time save right now is a multiplayer server launcher, which as long as you're in the title menu, we'll click through the multiplayer thing, set up a map, set a region, type in a server name, and do that. Since the server resets every time a multiplayer race finishes, you end up having to relaunch the server all the time. And so you can assign this instead to a switch, and every time you finish a race, the host can just click it and get the server right back up and waiting to accept new players. Now you can control stuff directly from Auto Hotkey, but I've just assigned all of these functions to just function buttons, just to make it a little simpler for the joystick mappings. I just use another program for that. I find it a little quicker to set up. So they're just on F2, F3, and F4. So in the next tool, Joy2Key, which you can get at just joy2key.net, little shareware program that converts joystick motion to key presses. Once you've downloaded this Auto Hotkey script, it's an AHK file, and when you've installed Auto Hotkey, you just double-click the script, and it will run in your taskbar, and it'll be listening for those key presses to run the macros, and it'll automatically look at the DRL simulator. Then grab Joy2Key, and when you run that, configuring it is also really simple. It just shows you a list of all of the axes that it sees on your joystick. What we'll have to do first is go to options and change the stick POV from stick and POV to show all axes. This will let us see all of the other switches and channels that we've configured on the Taranis. Make sure that all of the switches you want to use are configured as outputs. And you'll see that by wiggling the sticks around, you can cause all of the different axes and buttons and things to activate. So in order to set a function on here, we just find the trigger. So here, my SH momentary toggle, I can see that that's coming up as stick to down. So I can edit this one. And for my momentary toggle, I want to have that hit the R key and hit the space key. So this one is the fourth kind of basic reset function. Will automatically flip you upside down when you're upside down, will flip you to reset, and by hitting the space key, it'll also skip through. If you're sitting in a cinematic camera and want to continue, that'll automatically push you through to the race start. So that one's really handy to have, and you don't need to set up anything special for that. And then just set the rest of your sticks. Here I want my SG up. I see that's coming up on slider, and so I can assign this one to what I've set as F4. That's my mid-race reset. And then I can grab my SD, clicking up, I see that's axis 6 going above 0. I can set this to my post-race reset, which is F3. And I like to keep these on separate switches, so there's less confusion you don't want to get to the end of a race and accidentally reset without saving your time. So I keep them on switches further away from each other, so I don't accidentally bump one. And then finally, I'm actually even just using my slider rather than a switch for the server browser. So I'm using the my right slider, and it's actually here you see mapped to a button rather than one of the axes, but it works all of the same. So I can run that and assign that to F2. So now when I run that, and these will won't auto repeat, so you don't have to worry about them cycling. I can just click the slider up and it'll trigger the server one, and it won't trigger again until I put the slider back down and then slide it back up. And so you can see here for the server launcher script, all you have to do is be in the main screen, and then I'm going to flick up my slider, and it'll automatically fill out everything that I need, and leave me with the server created and waiting for players to join. So all you've got to do is click Start Race Now and get on with it. Something you may have to adjust in the script, actually, there's a couple things you can, of course, adjust in the script. Depending on how fast your machine is, there are delays where it needs to wait for some of the menus. So, for instance, after a quick restart and at the end restart, it waits 3 seconds before it hits space. If your loading time is longer than this, it'll hit space before the map is finished loading, and it won't automatically kill the thing. So you can increase or decrease this wait time here to speed up that as much as it needs. And the same thing in the multiplayer server launcher. Most of this it clicks through the menu and sets the region, so you can change that, click more times to go to a different region. But like this first sleep here, wait for server to load. After you've clicked to create the server, it can take a couple seconds for that to go. So if you're finding on your connection and your machine that it's taking longer, and so the rest of this isn't running, you can increase that server wait time. Or if it's always fast for you, you can decrease it so that it'll power through that quicker. You can set the server name here, just change the text that it types there. And then for setting the map, I pre-filled all of the different maps in the list and commented out the other clicks for the one. So right now it's set up to run LA Apocalypse, and you can see it does that by clicking twice. It starts with Gates as the default, and then goes to Miami and goes to LA Apocalypse. If you want to go to Bell Labs, just uncomment, delete these semicolons here in front of this click, and then sleep under the Bell Labs, and then it'll click through to that. Or if, say, you want to run Gates of Hell, just comment the LA Apocalypse and the Miami, these two, put semicolons in front of those, and it will just use that map that's already loaded and stay there.